So as we end our Yizkor service and our Torah service, and before we go to Musaf today, our most important prayers of the day, we want to spend just a few moments to give you an opportunity to listen to a speech I had the pleasure of hearing several months ago. Every year we have our Millionaire of the Year Award to someone who's so involved in our Greenfield Chapel community that they get an award for being the most devoted member. And there was a speech done at the Millionaire of the Year by our friend Gary Stein that I thought was very important to hear. Now, Gary likes to joke around with me that he never thought he'd be asked to speak on Yom Kippur, considering he was kicked out many times of religious school. And he never thought he'd be the person to talk about how going to Minyan changed his life as a Jew. And so now it's my pleasure to have all of you hear his talk today from our member, Gary Stein.
Good afternoon. I'm grateful to Rabbi Strauss for asking me to speak here to you today. What I'm going to speak about is something very personal and very meaningful to me, and I hope that it will resonate with you as well. I'd like to spend my time here to talk to you about a topic that's maybe not too pleasant and let in what I didn't know by Rabbi Strauss's sermon just a moment ago. But it's in fact a place that we'll all find ourselves someday. And because we are here in the sanctuary immediately after Yizkor, most of us have been there once. At some point in our lives, we will all be a mourner, as some of you currently are. I've been blessed in so many ways in my life. One of these blessings was to have not become an Avel until I was 52 years old. For the first 51 years, I was one of those noisy people in the hall during Yizkor. As a kid, my dad would joke around and call me my Kaddish, but until my mother Shirley died, I hadn't thought much about the process, what the meaning of it would all be, and how much it would change my life. When Mom passed away, I knew that I would go daily to say Kaddish. I knew it was my role and my duty as her son. Of course, I did some research. I read the book by Maurice Lamb and some others, and heard from various rabbis about how saying Kaddish elevates the soul of the departed, and so on. Maybe it does, but our ritual really benefits us, the survivors. What I learned is that our ritual elevates the soul of the mourner. We sat Shiva for a week at my father's home, but we held our minions here in the chapel at Beth Yeshurun each day. The first week was exhausting and numbing, as I guess it should be. Then there was Shloshim, the first 30 days. And then we settled into a routine, 7 in the morning and 5:30 or so in the evening. Although I had occasionally attended the chapel service, I was a Beth Yeshurun main sanctuary guy my whole life. The rhythms and the routines of the more traditional service in the chapel were almost foreign to me. Many of you will remember Steve Rudolph of blessed memory. Steve was like my personal gabbai. He showed me the ropes around the chapel. One of the soundest pieces of wisdom I got during this period was that by saying Kaddish, I could sort of compartmentalize my day. Those 30 minutes in the afternoon and 45 minutes or so in the morning allowed me to be a mourner. That time was my sacred time for me and my mother. It allowed me to use the rest of my day to not be a mourner, to be a father, a husband, a businessman, and a brother, and a son to my father. I've often said we Jews have had 4,000 years to learn how to mourn, and I think we got it right. In truth, actually, the Kaddish used as part of the ritual of mourning only dates back to the 12th century France and the Crusades. But whether you look back 47 centuries or just 9, our process helps us heal. I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a steel peddler. But I've seen Jews and non-Jews bury their dead, take a few days off, and then resume life as before, only to crash and burn with grief and desolation further down the road. One of my closest non-Jewish friends lost his mother when he was only 15. He told me that watching me go through the year of saying Kaddish helped him find a way to mourn for his own mother all these many years later. We do it right. And Beth Yeshurun and the J.B. Greenfield Chapel and its band of brothers and sisters are the constant presence that helps to pave the road to recovery and healing. At funerals, the rabbis always explain that helping to shovel the earth back into the grave is a very special mitzvah because it is the one that may not be repaid. As it relates to the mourners, I respectfully disagree. Sending me off to say Kaddish was truly my mother's last gift to me. I learned so much that year. Because my mother passed away in October, not long after Simchat Torah, attending services in the chapel every day and hearing the Torah read 4 times a week allowed me to follow its flow and progression and not just watch the highlight reel as my previous, more sporadic synagogue attendance had done. I experienced our festivals and our holidays in a whole new way, and I even learned to appreciate things like Rosh Chodesh and the Chol HaMoed days in the middle of the holidays. But especially hearing the shofar blown every morning in the month leading up to the high holidays helps to usher them in a stirring and powerful and meaningful way. Rabbi Horwitz, Richard Cameraman, and the one-of-a-kind Michael Lewis helped some of us rookies learn how to daven and lead the service. What a privilege this has become for me. Remember, I'm a product of the main sanctuary. Learning to lead the service was another part of that special gift from my mother. I remember emailing Rabbi Horwitz from various places on the planet where I had been asked to lead the service. I was like an excited bar mitzvah boy. Even today, almost 6 years later, when Jack Usick asked me to lead Shachrit in the morning, I have a spring in my step the rest of my day. That year, Marcy Rosen lost her mom, Rabbi Rosen lost his dad, Jay Hoffman lost a special friend, Mike Bono lost his dad, Elias Kemi lost his mother, and so many more. But we and they and my father and brothers became fellow travelers on this Kaddish journey. We nurtured each other along, initially with sympathy and solace, and eventually with humor and camaraderie. I was determined not to miss an opportunity to say Kaddish. Because I travel so much, my year of saying Kaddish was truly an adventure. There were schedules and deadlines, exotic ports and destinations, different customs and rituals, tour guides, and yes, security lines. Getting into a shul in Europe is a little bit like getting on a plane to Israel. I came to rely heavily on the internet, and especially a website called godaven.com. More than once, I was moved nearly to tears by the kindness of those I met along the way. In communities from Oxford, England to Barranquilla, Colombia, and even Waco, Texas, thanks to the Hoffman family, total strangers became shul kloppers, figuratively knocking on doors and gathering 9 people together to have a minyan so that I could say Kaddish. People who barely knew me took me into their homes for Shabbat. It's a long story I won't tell here, but I even once got a ride to a shul from a Catholic priest who told me it's a mitzvah for me to take you to say Kaddish. President Kennedy said here in Houston, why do we do these and the other things? Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. My year of saying Kaddish was exhausting and grueling. It took a physical toll on me and made a mess of our schedule at home. I'm very grateful to my wife, Tracy, and my colleagues at work for supporting me totally and unequivocally through that year. When the year was over, at my first yard site, at my mother's first year at site, I led part of the service, and then I turned around and saw family and friends, and I knew that we live in a blessed place and a blessed time. I did not miss my mother less, but I knew that I had done right by her, and that her memory, our process, and our people, the Beth Yeshurun congregants, had healed me. Although my topic today was about saying Kaddish, I hope that what I've told you about the Greenfield Chapel will encourage you to come try the daily service. Whether or not you're saying Kaddish, it is a wonderful place. We need you there. And it is a place where we can reconnect. It was for me a place to reconnect with the rhythm of our tradition. The warmth and the kindness of the people you will find in the chapel will amaze and make you feel great. I can't conclude a talk about the chapel without remembering and recognizing my favorite teacher, the one guy at Beth Yeshurun Hebrew School who didn't kick me out. This year, we lost a fine, gentle man, Dr. Irving Rothman. He came to synagogue every evening just to ensure there was a minyan so people could say Kaddish. No one in the chapel is a stranger, and it's a place where you might find a bagel that is occasionally fresh. Pick a day, make it your own, and please join us at 7 a.m. or sunset. Gimar Chatima Tova.